Israel has to act, and Israel will act. And under the best of circumstances, it will not be simple, and it will not be easy, and it will be bloody and aggressive. It is inevitable, and it's the only language that can be spoken in the Middle East, and that must be understood.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told him, "You have come to a hurting nation, a fighting nation, a nation of lions, a nation that is determined to defeat the forces of evil around us." Israel's Prime Minister has declared that every member of Hamas is a dead man, and there are concerns about how far he will go in exacting Israel's revenge. Well, earlier I spoke to Ehud Olmert, former Israeli Prime Minister, who's been critical of his successor. But I started by asking him how significant Secretary of State Blinken's visit was.
Look, first of all, America is the best friend Israel has ever had. And of all the American presidents, I think Biden certainly is ranking very high on his commitment, personal commitment, and traditional attitude towards the state of Israel. So it's not surprising. Now, this is something that the Americans have no problem supporting. I mean, the present circumstances. They are absolutely against terror. They always have been very, very sensitive to terrorist organizations. And therefore, it is a most natural response of the American administration, particularly this group of political personalities like Joe Biden, like Blinken and others, to express their support. And I think that on top of that natural, traditional friendship to the state of Israel, they also want to make sure that the inevitable Israeli-Hamas now military confrontation, which will, of course, expand as a result of what they did, that it will not blow out of proportions in terms of the entire Middle East. And therefore, their presence here is a reminder to all the other potential players that they'd rather be careful and restrained and let the Israelis do the job that they need to do.
Well, this is important, isn't it? Because there are reports this evening from Syrian state media that there have been Israeli airstrikes on sites, including the airport in Damascus and nearby Aleppo. How alarmed are you at this tension between what Antony Blinken has urged Israel to do, to operate by the rules of war, and by what your successor, Mr. Netanyahu, has said, that Israel is only getting started and that Hamas is going to reap a response that they cannot imagine?
Look, I'll tell you, Israel has to act, and Israel will act. And under the best of circumstances, it will not be simple, and it will not be easy, and it will be bloody and aggressive. It is inevitable. And it's the only language that can be spoken in the Middle East, and that must be understood. No one can compromise with what they have done, and they can't be left without a very powerful Israeli response. However, I think that we will do everything that we can in order to avoid unnecessary collateral damages that may erupt in the course of such actions. And I understand the sensitivity of the Americans. Actually, what the Americans are doing is telling Israel, listen, you enjoy now the international support, the like of which you didn't enjoy in generations. Since I retired, when I was Prime Minister, I think we had this kind of support from the international community because my policy towards the Palestinians was entirely different than that of Netanyahu. But since Netanyahu took over in the last 15 years, we never enjoyed such a comprehensive support. We have to make sure, according to the Americans, not to lose it.
Some people have
and
blamed...
That's what they are basically saying to us. Don't lose it. Don't create circumstances that will make it difficult for you supporters to carry on. And also, I'll tell you something. I was never an admirer of the rhetoric of Netanyahu. He speaks a lot. He actually, in 2009, when he became prime minister, he said that the primary priority of his government will be to destroy Hamas, and then he cooperated with Hamas. So I'm not sure that what he says right now is smart from his point of view, because I think that you don't have to create expectations which can't be achieved.
Well, Mr. Olmert, if you were Prime Minister now, given what happened on Saturday, would you order the essential occupation of Gaza, despite what this might mean for hostages, despite what this might mean for casualties on your own side?
Let me put it this way. Had I been Prime Minister now, I most likely would have reacted in a very massive manner. I wouldn't have taken the Gaza. I wouldn't have tried to occupy Gaza for any period of time. I would enter into parts of Gaza where I think we can reach out for what we need to achieve, which is to destroy the infrastructure of the Hamas, to destroy their bunkers, to destroy their launchers, to destroy their hangars where they store their weapons and military bases. And
how possible would that be, given how densely populated that area is? 2 million people. It's just surely impossible to do that.
What is the alternative? Not to do anything? I mean, you're not talking about an organization that is prepared under certain circumstances, whichever they may be, to negotiate peace with Israel. They don't want to. They never wanted to. They are not prepared to even recognize the existence of the state of Israel. And nothing that we will do will change it. I mean, nothing that we will not do will make any difference. And in the context of the Middle East, not to react to this is a show of weakness that will be used to encourage the Hamas to carry on the military confrontation with us even further.
What about negotiations with the Palestinian Authority of Mahmoud Abbas, Abu Mazen, at the same time?
I'm very much in favor. I think that we have to do two things now. We have to fight Hamas, and we have to reach out for Abu Mazen. That's what I say from day one. We have to negotiate with Abu Mazen. I think that now there is also an opportunity for Abu Mazen, which I hope he will be smart enough to seize. Because right now, the entire world is against Hamas. So it opens up an opportunity for Abu Mazen to rise again into center stage, where he was not for the last few years. He was in the sidelines. He now can emerge again. And if he will emerge, then the onus will lie on the shoulders of the Israeli government to respond.
But won't that job be made more difficult for Mahmoud Abbas, Abu Mazen, if the collateral damage, as you put it, in Gaza is so terrible? It would surely make his position untenable if he were to try to negotiate with Prime Minister Netanyahu, given the number of Palestinians killed is now approaching 1,500.
There were 1,500 Israeli killed, massacred, butchered, raped, beheaded by the Hamas. Mm-hmm. That's number one. That's how it started. Number two, most of the Palestinians that were killed are Hamas people. And you know who is...
But how would you possibly know that?
Just a minute. Who is the greatest... Most of them were killed in the operation.
No, I'm not talking about those who were killed in Israel. I'm talking about now in Gaza. So setting aside the 1,500...
How do you know?
This is according to the authorities. The figure has gone up very slowly since Saturday.
Just a minute. You asked me questions.
Yes,
Let me answer you. I don't know who the authorities in Gaza are. The authorities in Gaza are the Hamas. That's what they are saying. I'm not sure, and I'm not certain that I can trust them. Okay? Mm-hmm. That's number one. Number two, there will be a collateral damage. It's because the Hamas is working within the society there. Now, what do you want to suggest? That we will give immunity to Hamas because they are hiding amongst the people living there? We have to try and reach out for them, and we'll try to reach out with the utmost effort to avoid unnecessary collateral damages. By the way, had all the population had rejected the Hamas and had the terrorists submitted themselves to Israel, there wouldn't have been any collateral damage at all.
But think about what you're saying, Prime Minister. I mean, there was an election in 2006. Hamas won it, and there hasn't been one since then. And those people are mainly in poverty. They themselves are in the grip of Hamas, who is running things with the iron fist. What chance would they have if they disagreed with Hamas?
I want to understand what are your questions leading to. You say, number one, you don't deny that they have perpetrated terrible atrocities and killed innocent people, and they are holding babies of 2 years old and 5 years old. They beheaded children and babies and elderly people in their homes, civilians which have nothing to do with the conflict. And now what you say to me is because they are controlling the Gaza district and because they are embedded into the population, then we can't respond because there will be a collateral damage. So we just have to acquiesce with what they did?
Not at all, Mr. Olmert. I'm just trying to describe the complexity and work.
It's a complex situation.
Yes.
Life is not simple, it's nothing not easy, and we'll do everything that we can in order to avoid, as I said, we will do everything that we can in order to avoid unnecessary collateral damage. Some will definitely happen. I have to be honest with you. I can't, fool around. There will be a certain collateral damage. We'll try to minimize it to the maximum in order to try and reach out for the leaders and for the terrorists that were perpetrating this. And I hope that we will be successful enough in achieving this goal without causing the unnecessary damage.
Final thought, Mr. Olmert, final thought. It's now some days since the Israeli authorities announced that they would not allow any power, electricity, water, food, medical equipment into Gaza. And they're now saying, unless you release the hostages, that is going to be the situation. The Hamas is saying, well, unless you do allow these materials in, we will kill the hostages. If you're the Prime Minister, what do you do?
Listen, when you are not a Prime Minister, it's much easier to say what you will do when you don't have the responsibility for the possible consequences. So I can say only this, that when I was Prime Minister and I was under severe civilian pressures and political pressure in Israel, to trade prisoners for one Israeli soldier, I turned out all these pressures and I refused to do it. What I say now is this. The hostages from Israel are a big asset for the Hamas. And they threaten that they will kill them. I doubt that it will do. I doubt very much. They are assets, and they will be very careful not to lose these assets, because that will only give a more free way to Israel to act even more violently than we want to.
That was Ehud Olmert, Prime Minister of Israel from 2006 to 2009.